Dude, you causing trouble on Facebook again?
Usually, yeah. Why not?
Huh? Well, because I get a message yesterday. I see on Facebook yesterday, Steve Scholl and all these nice people say that you're calling them bigots and stuff. I told them I'd get to the bottom of this because...
wait, on Facebook?
Yeah, man.
No, I wouldn't. No, I'm not exactly sure. Let me go to the actual post. The problem was what I had said was very specific, which was the John Lewis post. I was more than open to disagreement, but when each comment was starting with that old sucker or he failed black, I said I wasn't putting up with that. And you monitor your Facebook wall, I monitor my Facebook wall, and I made a general comment about that. And I think people take things personally. When you converse with people on Facebook, you don't know them personally, so I have to deal with everybody in a general context. And so, if anybody was offended, I'm sorry, but I'm known for being pretty tolerant of some crazy stuff, and I don't think that I'm unreasonable in my responses.
Yeah, I just got people. I didn't. Obviously, I said.
Why are they telling you?
Well, they weren't really telling me. I just my Facebook friends. I could see what they post, and sometimes they'll connect me. It just mentioned my name because you're on my show, and they're people who I respect, and they're people who have been there through thick and thin, and so I want to make sure that I just felt like a lot of these people have been through. And by the way, I'm not lecturing you. I'm just saying a lot of these people have been through. Months of being called names and being told they're racists and everything else. And I think that the tolerance level for that kind of thing, that's probably why people are very sensitive, because it's like, come on, really? You're going to pull that on me? But I get your point about language too. But
any individual, I talked about a general sentiment and the general sentiment was basically when they said, when Donald Trump made that idiotic comment about, his district being crime-ridden, I actually posted the actual facts. Facts are they have a higher high school graduation rate than the national average. Their income level is about 10% lower, but the price of gas there is 10% lower. And they're 10%, 11% higher college graduation rate. And Atlanta is one of the places where you actually see a significant number of black folks at the actual sporting events, basketball, football games, because they have an extremely, extremely affluent and vibrant middle-class and upper-middle-class community, which generally drives the leadership decisions and leadership directives of John Lewis. He doesn't represent solely poor people who don't have jobs and this and that. Not putting those people down, but that, and no, they're not leading the nation in violent crime or even in the top 10. So what I wrote was there are a lot of people who posted very racist comments in response to that, and I deleted them. So I made a general message thing. So I don't know if they were some of the people that posted those or not. I don't know, because I immediately deleted the comments and said there's some people who seem to be very unhappy about statistics, including some black people, talking about black success and the fact that there exists a vibrant black middle class.
Right.
Well, I'm assuming that's where it came from. I deleted a lot of comments yesterday.
Yeah.
I can't tell you exactly which ones were which.
It's interesting that Trump, the attention paid to his tweet and all the facts around his tweet. John Lewis hasn't been under the same kind of scrutiny in terms of providing facts. I mean, I heard him talking about separate drinking fountains and what it was like in 1959. But it has nothing to do with what's going on now. And it's funny how John Lewis can go before a congressional a hearing and start talking about racism, but he's talking about it from 1961. I mean, it's not even from 2017. And I'm trying to figure out what is his point. And I'm not saying that Lewis, and I don't need to preface my comments saying how hard he worked for civil rights, because everybody understands that. But I don't know whether that gives you the same kind of, that gives you the license just to kind of start calling people racist when they're not. What stats does he provide in his testimony that?
You talking about with Jeff Sessions?
Yeah.
Oh, well, I mean, the Jeff Sessions things I have mixed feelings on because Jeff Sessions, there are plenty of black leaders that say that Jeff Sessions himself personally was in fact in favor of civil rights. So that's a back and forth thing.
Yeah.
I think where it comes from is that there are certain people that Lewis and others believe that when Donald Trump appoints a Supreme Court justice, that they're not going to be favorable towards the existing civil rights legislation. So you can't just, it's all connected because the laws that bans all those things are now subject to possibly being re-reviewed if he, because there's some people who, including some people in the Libertarian Party, were talking about, moving against it. So, I mean, I think that's partly, I looked at some of the testimony there. I'm assuming that's where he was coming from with that. It's hard for me to put a finger on where Sessions.
Well, and that was the problem with John Lewis's statement is that he goes out there and what he does.
Which statement? You mean the one against Trump or Sessions?
Well, both, because what's happening is that there's really nothing based in any modern fact that would indicate that Jeff Sessions or Donald Trump are racist or going to bring us back to the days of separate drinking fountains. I don't see how that. I mean, I understand John Lewis has credibility because of his role in civil rights, but again, that doesn't make him credible now. You know what I'm saying? With what he's saying about Jeff Sessions.
I don't agree with that. I think it makes him credible. You can disagree with him.
Right,
I don't think his credibility should be in question. Because we don't know. I mean, as far as with Donald Trump, I think Trump is in a lot of ways responsible for why people have trepidations on race. I think the idea that Donald Trump is not responsible for some people worrying that he's going to appoint Supreme Court justices that may be hostile to the Civil Rights Act. No, there's reasons why people are concerned, and it's connected to these places. Let me give you an example. The places where Hillary Clinton dominated Bernie Sanders, 261 to 11 in delegates were Florida, Georgia, Mississippi, and the District of Columbia. Those were also the places that have the 4 highest counts of black-owned business. When Donald Trump comes out and says, "What do you have to lose?" That's a reason, because it's making the assumption that black folks' economic reality is defined exclusively by poverty, and that's not. And he did say that. He and Sanders both said something like that.
Well, I think it was right. But what Jay,
there's a significant amount of black success that's occurred,
right.
And John Lewis represents people who are concerned that the populist and the big government consciousness of people like Trump may actually try to take that away.
Well, no,
so there are facts.
but no, that's not a fact. That's somebody conjuring a possibility. And here's the thing.
Well, that's what
but
do.
Trump.
That's
here's the deal, though. But
there's no facts to confirm what anyone's going to do when they're nominated as Attorney General. You can't sit there and go, "Well, this fact will prove this."
All right,
people brought up quotes that Jeff Sessions made that sounded questionable. I watched the hearings.
Right.
And Sessions goes, it's this or it's that.
Right.
But no fact is ever going to confirm. Like there was one of the white congressmen said, "You said that you want to aggressively promote and prosecute obscenity and decency laws." And he thought that was a little weird. And Sessions goes, "Well, only the ones that we're currently processing and prosecuting now."
Right, can we go back? Let's go back to the thing when you said about what do you have to lose. That was a direct reference to the fact that progressive Democrats have not helped black or whites, for that matter, and he was speaking.
That's a conjecture too, though.
Well, but that's his.
An open-ended statement.
But right, exactly. But that was still his opinion. That wasn't an indication that he. And there's not been one fact put forth. Exactly. But there's not one fact that's been put forth. When has there ever been one piece of evidence that Donald Trump has any intention whatsoever of rolling back civil rights legislation? Where's that coming from?
Well, no. Donald Trump, I'll say this, until recently, I'll say that Donald Trump has done a good job of, other than that terrible week where he was trying to talk about black folks, no, there's not evidence that he's going to do that as far as concrete, because Donald Trump says 4 and 5 things on every issue. But my point is going back to what Dr. Martin Luther King, there's a reason why in the South there was a more slightly conservative, that they didn't embrace the progressive, they embraced the more what you would call the more centrist Democrat in Hillary Clinton. It's not just because they like the Clintons. It's because the South has been the foundation of where that movement started. And Martin Luther King didn't just talk about integration. He didn't even really care that much about white people and black people kumbayaing. He was talking about equal economic opportunity and investment.
Right.
And the fact is that
I think Trump's talking about that.
These regions that are doing well are the core of the people who are seriously concerned about this populism thing on both sides of the issue. It's not just whites. It's the black people who are going off on General Holiday. I guarantee you the overwhelming majority of those quotes weren't from the South. Those black people calling her a sellout and calling her racial epithets, that's more a Midwest and maybe slightly, the Rust Belt area. There's a different psychological economic culture in the South that is more conservative, but Donald Trump's not a conservative. Donald Trump sounds like a populist that is willing to just simply respond to talk show and radio media tropes about people in terms of policy.
Well,
that's why they're worried.
Right. Okay, I don't think
the concrete reality.
Right. I don't think he's inventing.
For him to prove it.
Right, but Jay, I don't think there's any indication at all that he's anything but connected to the economic desires of all races. I mean, I think that's been very clear. I mean, let's put it this way. The outrage over that the outrage over that comment he made about what he had to lose, and compared to the outrage over Bill Clinton when he talked about his big economic plan, or the Democrats' big economic plan for revitalizing Detroit by handing over homesteading loans to Syrian refugees, tells you all you need to know about what Trump's talking about.
That's kind of an obscure reference. It wasn't just that one comment. That's a conflation. There are several things that Donald Trump. I don't want to rehash his entire campaign here. I'm just saying.
I do.
If people are going to suggest that Martin Luther King did something great, and then turn around and act like they're confused as to why many black folks and the vibrant black middle class, who 90% of them were poor when Martin Luther King started. My parents' generation, I hear a lot of people going, "Oh, I can't wait till John Lewis and all those guys get out of it." Those are the people who open economic doors for us. Like, I own some property in U City, and I'm doing, better than my parents were when they were, younger. But they opened doors by getting college degrees, getting educated, and facing the racism of people and still being able to succeed. And they are concerned. You say, well, what's the indication? I don't know that anybody knows exactly what Donald Trump's going to do. But to suggest that there's nothing there, when I've read Breitbart articles, I've read articles under Steve Bannon where he said that things about they should be affirmative action against women, that women with higher test scores should not be allowed to be in universities because they end up quitting and getting married in 5 years.
Right.
This is coming out of Bannon's operation. So there is evidence to suggest that people might be a little bit concerned about some of the direction that his people are taking.
This whole thing about the idea that they're somehow going to go back to separate drinking fountains or whatever, and rolling back civil rights legislation. This is the actual first time I've ever heard of anything of the sort coming out of the Trump campaign. I mean, I guess technically you can worry about anything. I'm worried about a Cessna falling out of the sky onto my head when I leave this office.
It's not like that. Donald Trump had said, when you talk about make America great again, and when Donald Trump came out with the birtherism, like, his people are concerned about John Lewis questioning his legitimacy. Obama didn't question his legitimacy, but the language they're using about opposing the questions to Donald Trump's legitimacy, John Lewis and others would say, why didn't you say that about Donald Trump, who kicked off his political rise during the Tea Party by making the same claim? That's why they're concerned. When there's a guy now who won the presidency, who started off to put himself on the map as a birther with no evidence, with no real evidence whatsoever, and now all of a sudden people want to produce evidence for him being screwy. For me, as soon as he did that, already there's trepidation, because that yes, I do put a racial association with that.
Yeah, so, I wasn't involved in the birther thing, so but I will tell you, I got to go.
I'm just saying that's why a lot of black folks are concerned.
Right.
And that's another thing is, I think a lot of black folks get, especially black folks who are very educated, get a little. They have trepidations about white people telling them, and I'm not being personal, but they hear a lot of white people say, "What are you worried about?" "Oh, that guy's fine. That's cool." I've experienced a lot of people who speak to me, a lot of older white men who speak to me and speak in the context that Donald Trump does. And you get the sense that it's a person who sometimes feels a little bit concerned about minorities and women being intelligent and having answers that he may not have.
Well,
you experience that as an educated black person, and Donald Trump, to a lot of people, manifests that. That's just the way it is.
Yeah, well, but we're in a situation now where it's every day. It's the "when did you stop beating your wife" question, and which is hard to answer. I mean, you know, you talk. Well, I mean, but you talking about middle-aged white men fearing blacks being educated. I mean,
no, I didn't say middle-aged.
All I can say is I don't believe that.
I'm talking about middle-aged, but I'm talking about Donald Trump.
Okay,
someone being
well, you
older than you when you're a kid, or my parents when they went through school and they were told significantly, "Hey, you're not as smart as these other white people," when they knew they were. Donald Trump, to me and to a lot of people, just conveys that sort of a tone.
Well, maybe it's just because I'm white, but but the way I look at it, and some of the black people I've talked to too, who support him, say he's an empowerer, not a person who talks down to them, and that's why he enjoyed some of the support.
I don't believe that.
Well, but that again, that's your opinion, but there are a lot of people who differ from you on that. Jay, I got to get going, buddy. I appreciate it. thegrayfalcon.webs.com. Thanks. I'm out of time, though. Okay?